Hello and welcome to another episode of the World War II podcast. I'm Angus Wallace. I have something different for this episode. Last year I got an email from Cole Gill. His grandfather had made a number of tape recordings recounting his experiences during the war serving on the Royal Navy ship HMS Exeter. Then, as a POW, where he witnessed the dropping of the atomic bomb on Nagasaki. Who wouldn't be interested in that story? So, Cole sent them over, and after listening to them, they've been languishing in my virtual bottom drawer on my computer, awaiting for me to have some inspiration. Well, I've got them out, dusted them down, and what I have for you is the story of Raymond Fitchett. Now, folks, if you enjoy what you hear each episode, I wonder if you would consider becoming a patron. It is the odd dollar or so from listeners like yourself that help me as an independent historian find the time to research, interview, edit and release the show twice a month. If you'd like to join the gang of patrons, you can find out more at patreon.com/WW2podcast. And if you're not getting enough of me, I do release extra tidbits of World War II chat to patrons when I have it. So that's patreon.com/WW2podcast to find out more. And I thank those who already bask in the satisfying rosy glow from supporting the podcast. So, Raymond Horace Fitchett was born in Alberta, Canada on the 22nd of December 1916. I'll let Ray start off his story.
So if I start talking now, eh? Yeah. Now, this is Ray Fitchett. I'm an ex-naval man. And I'm going to give you a bit of history of my lifetime. My parents came out in 1912. They settled down in Hannah, Dromella that way. We had 8 children out here in Canada. My mother and parents did. And so, then things got tough. My mother's parents in England was getting old, and so my mother went back with 7 of us back into England. While I was in England, things got tough out the land. The land all got dried out here behind and Dromella, and a lot of farmers had to quit farming because it was so bad. Later on, the war broke out, and so then there was 4 of them in our family. They were all ready for the services, so they all joined up, and I joined in the Navy because my uncle was in the Navy in the 16th war. I served on a cruiser, the Exeter. Boy, I better tell you about when I got called up first, didn't I? I got called up when it was 22, when I went volunteer so I could get in the Navy. And then I had 2 weeks, 1 month of training. And then after that, I went home on leave, and I had 2 weeks leave. And then I was courting my girlfriend there, Sonia, Staniforth, and so we decided to get engaged, and before I went away. So we got engaged, and then I went overseas, convoying troops overseas to Africa and all around there and different parts of the world. My girl, a friend of mine, we never seen one another for 5 years.
Ray would be posted to HMS Exeter. By the time he joined the crew, the Exeter was already famous for taking part in the Battle of the River Plate, where she was key to the scuttling of the German pocket battleship, the Graf Spee, that had been commerce raiding off South America.
Here it was that the British cruiser Exeter surprised the Spee just as she was about to attack the French liner Formosa. Firing faster, but with shorter range guns, the Exeter kept the Spee fighting until 2 more English cruisers rushed into the fray, the Ajax and the Achilles. The Spee's guns had done their work on the Exeter, but the Ajax and Achilles took their revenge.
Before the war, when I boarded the Exeter, she was engaged a lot with the Graf Spee. But that time, I wasn't aboard her at that time, the Graf Spee, which was a good thing, because my turret, the gun I was on was blown right off there. The Exeter led the battle, and she got all the blunt. But later on, then it was recognition, and the King and Queen come on, and the 2 daughters came on there, which is one's the Queen now, and they recommissioned it, and Churchill came on.
The gallant cruiser, though battle-scarred, comes home, in spite of the German boast that she'd never make it. And although her arrival is unheralded, dense crowds are there to welcome her, and no wonder. Mr. Winston Churchill is piped aboard. Now, listen to Mr. Churchill.
You cannot but recognize that you had the fortune to be on the spot when the opportunity came.
So Exeter writes a glorious page of history, as did Drake of old.
And then that's when we boarded again, and then after that we got, as you say, we got to that convoy and stuff during the war, to Dutch Indies and Java and Africa and all around there to fight in the desert now. But eventually we got engaged, we got chased after Bismarck, another Bismarck, another big battleship.
The Royal Navy is out for the kill. The Bismarck sighted, and great shells start moving to their guns. Miles away, the Bismarck is framed in 16-inch shell bursts.
We got engaged with that we didn't get hit that way. We damaged her, and then she went into ports in France. But eventually, we all waited for her coming out. She got damaged, and then she was finished off with the Navy and some seaplane bobbed her and finished her off. And so that the Bismarck went down there too. Well, there I am again once more. Now after that, Japanese came into the war, so we had to start convoying into Dutch Indies and Java there, and Borneo and Burma and Singapore. After all that, eventually we got tangled up with the Japanese fleet there, and eventually we got hit in the room there, in the shell room, hit in the shell room there with the Japanese shell there. And then we had to withdraw from there, went to Surabaya and took the dead off. And the shells that they were using on us I picked the heads of it, and it was made in England 1916, but they stayed fighting with us in the 16 war. So therefore they had the ammunition from that war, but they pumped it back and in this war back at us. And I remember picking the head up of it and went into the engine room there and moved the engine room up. And I remember sticking the head on the top, and it was got a big snap sign made in England 1916. When we came out again, then the Japanese fleet was all waiting for us then, and that dozen of them unto us 3. So then eventually we got hit in the engine room again, and that put a stop to it. Then we had to fight it out there till all the ammunition was gone. And eventually we got hit again, so that put a stop to that. And eventually we had to abandon the ship, and then we jumped into the ocean, and we had to see what happened then.
The first major engagement Ray refers to was the First Battle of the Java Sea in February 1942. The Allies sailed to intercept a Japanese invasion force. They were outnumbered and outgunned by the Japanese heavy cruisers. It was during this that the Exeter took a hit which set off a detonation in the forward boiler room, knocking 6 of her boilers offline and killing 14 of her crew. She was forced to withdraw and could only make 5 knots to Surabaya. The following day, after temporary repairs, the Exeter, HMS Encounter and the USS Pope were ordered out of port to escape via the Sunda Strait, where they were intercepted by 4 Japanese heavy cruisers and 4 destroyers. Lieutenant Commander George Cooper would later write of this encounter. For 2 hours we had a running fight with them. They straddled us many times but never hit us until 11:30, when a shell penetrated the boiler room. It was a shot in a million as it cut our one remaining steam pipe. The ship came to a stop in all departments. The main engines stopped through lack of steam. The dynamos stopped. The turrets were motionless on different bearings. The steering failed. The The inside became full of smoke as escaping oil fuel in the forward boiler burst into flames. There was nothing we could do except sink her. She started to list slightly to port, pouring black smoke out of her funnels. Men were cutting down Carley floats and float nets, casting timber adrift, turning out boats. The Japanese were starting to hit us now as the range closed in. She was getting lower in the water and heeling more. The inside had been completely evacuated. No one could live down there. At the bottom of the ladder, leading to the upper deck, were a lot of people, all quite calm. She was very nearly stopped, and men were leaving in dribs and drabs. As they went, they drifted away astern. Then I climbed over the side and jumped into the water. 652 of the crew would be rescued.
Well, eventually I had to jump overboard. I was late getting off board ship there. I was in a turret then. I didn't know it was an abandoned ship. The ship was listed never quite bad then. There were just a few officers left on board. And they said, every man for himself. At that time I had no life belt, as I was using it as a pillar in the turret. And I was on action there for 2 or 3 days. So over the side I went, and I didn't think about having no life belt, but then I saw this here piece of wood about 3 foot square, and another sailor was like clinging on to it. So I clinged along with him, and then soon after we saw on the horizon these Japanese ships coming up there, and saw the rising sun, and I recognised them, the flag, the rising sun, and they come out there, and they decided just before Singapore fell, I heard that they decided the Geneva Red Cross and they would take prisoners. So I said, well, here goes, we'll let it. So now he's staying here, we get it's a shark infested sea, and we'll only get gobbled up with this feed the sharks. And I didn't particularly want to, if there was any chance of living, I'd like to live a bit longer. This other fellow, he said, no, I'll leave you to it, I'm not going to get to a prisoner. He said, and he just let go of the board that I was hanging on to, and then he just off he went and left me to it, and then I lay flat on this board. It's quite a thick board, which had rope around that you could cling on to. But most of the other guys got jumped overboard and got off with boats and dinghies and that. Most of them was machine gunned by the Japanese. I swam across, and then they threw me a rope there to climb up there. And they got halfway up there and didn't get very good, and slipped down again, had another go, and slipped down again, and then he's sitting in there and he slapped his hand down and said, heck with you, you die there. But then eventually I got up the rope again and just got on the edge of the board, edge of the ship, the destroyer, and then he pulled me in, and then he seen I hadn't got no jewellery, no rings, and it was because they had to give up all their jewellery and gold during the war. So he would be disappointed he hadn't got nothing. So then he hustled me on the back of the stern of the ship there, and there were a lot more of our guys there, all one badly burnt up the boiler room, and they were all hanging there, the skin hanging off them and everything. So I sat there with them, and then we took half, and then we were for a couple of days there on the destroyer, and then eventually along come a Red Cross, big liner. It was a Dutch liner. It was going to try and get way to Australia, that's what I understood. But the Japanese put a couple of shells across it, and then they stopped it, and then they airboarded it and took it over, and then they transferred us onto it. And then they said they were going to take it to a prison camp in Java, Mikasa, and we headed there, and then they said they would allow the Red Cross people on the ship to make us a meal, and they made us, cooked us rice and prunes and stuff, and then when we got into Mikasa, they said they wouldn't let us eat it, but then they said that they just chased it off the board ship and into Mikasa, and they never let us have the food after all. We had to run the double all the way through the village there, which the road was, around 100 degrees on there. All our people blistered up, they took all our shoes and stuff off of us, because they'd never seen good shoes and stuff like that. And so we had to wrap our feet up with rag, and eventually that all fell off, and then a lot of them, and we had to run quite a way through Mikasa to this here. It was a Dutch army camp, and then they busted Dutch. It was capped. They captured Dutch Indians, so because nobody in the camp there, they'd all fled up into the mountains there. we got into camp there, and then it had false wooden floors, and they took all the wooden floors, made us lay on the cement floor, marbles, which was really bad, and then of course it's full of mosquitoes there in that time, and we had 9 months in there making roads through the jungle. Eventually they decided to ship someone us to Japan to work in Nagasaki. I'll put a stop to that now.
Lieutenant George Cooper arrived at the camp with Ray and the rest of the survivors from the Exeter. He recalled, "Conditions were far from good. From the first month, all we were given to eat was a round bun for breakfast, and for supper a bowl of cooked rice with little green watercress or smelly dried fish. That was all. We made paper hats or envelopes to hold the rice, as there were no plates. In the barracks, men were crowded 4, sometimes 5 to a cubicle 8 foot by 6 without a vestige of bedding or furniture. It was very hot. You could almost boil water by putting a pan in the sun under a piece of glass. The general discomfort was aggravated by sleeplessness and the lack of clothing, resulting in mosquito bites which often went septic." In his memoir, Never Forget Nor Forgive, Cooper also recalls being asked to produce a list of POWs with a technical ability, so they could be used as forced labour in aid of the Japanese war effort. In the end, the lists were duly produced. It was no use concealing such ratings as artificers, as they knew we had them in the ships, and, in any case, could easily have found them out. So, we did the next best thing. We slashed down the number. We excluded several categories such as stoker petty officers and chief stokers, so that out of 900 men, we only gave them 57. Besides, a number of these were quite bogus as technicians and only likely to make a mess of any skilled work. Eventually, the NIPS took another 150 non-technicals from my contingent and from the Dutch and Americans to make up a draft of 1,000. These were all shipped north to Japan in the Osama Maru on October 14th, 1942, to work in the shipyards.
Well, here we are again. I'm going to tell you a little bit of story of the trip when we took off from Makassar to Bedford, Japan. We got to work in the dockyards there, and so on this boat it was an old troop ship. What the Japanese some of the Japanese were going back to Japan, what had been fighting in Burma and Java there, and they were going back. They put us right down the bottom of the bilges, right in the steel girders down the bottom, the frame of the ship. And down there they had cases and cases of all different animals and chickens and stuff what they took from Java in the jungle, snakes and lizards and stuff, and they were all in crates, and they were all down the bottom bilges, and that's where they put all those guys, and then they put the planks on the top of the hole there, just went all, so they could just make some fair get down there, and then they would, every now and again, they would come down and take some of these game chickens and feed them to the lizards, and the lizards only just suck the blood out on them, and after they'd gone up, then we would reach in these cages where all these little lizards and snakes were in this. They only just sucked on the blood mostly, and so we was reaching them. We would pull these out, and we would eat these chickens. I mind to be raw, but it was better than being hungry. I forget to say exactly how many days it took from the Makassar to take to Japan. We went to Okinawa there, and then went on to Japan. And then we had a big tidal wave there, and so it lifted the ship right up in there, and we thought it had been torpedoed, and the ship went roll over on its side and rolled back in all these crates of animals. It was dark, we were all yelling, shouting, the crates all fell down on top of us, and we couldn't see what we were doing. We just thought we'd been torpedoed, by our own, like if it was a Japanese, I thought we'd automatically been torpedoed by our own American submarine. And then eventually it straightened up, and then as we went on to Japan, then we went into the Fukuoka. That's just off a little Nagasaki is an island, but Fukuoka just across a ferry boat, like on a ferry boat, And the people from Japan, like Nagasaki, they come across this dockyard. It's a Mitsubishi dockyard in Fukuoka. And we had to learn how to build ships. Of course, we were pretty weak, so we didn't get much to eat. And when we first got took, they only gave us one bun between two. And so we weren't too strong. And of course, while I was in Japan, in Java, we never get a chance to we ain't got no clothing much, and so we was pretty black looking from the sun, working in the jungle for 9 months with sun near 100 degrees or more. And so then they give us a coat and the trousers, but no shoes, you just wear bare feet. Well, I bet you made of some wooden cloth yourself, a piece of wood with a strap over. That's what they like. That's most of the Japanese wear too.
In his book, No Surrender, fellow Exeter survivor and prisoner of war, William Johns, describes the routine of the men sent to Nagasaki. Reveille was at 5:30, with a muster in the room. All reports being given in Japanese by the room chiefs. This was followed by breakfast at 0600 and a work parade at 06:30. Sick men who were unable to work had their rations stopped. This meant that 52 rations became 48 if 4 men in the room were sick. Those who were fit enough marched halfway to the dockyard with the camp guards, and they were then turned over to the naval guards, who escorted them to the dockyard, where they were split into work parties, with a nip hancho and 1 prisoner hancho. Fellow British prisoner of war in Japan, Alf Carney, said the first 2 days were spent forming working parties, welders, machine shop fitters and turners, platers, etc. But, needless to say, they were not the skilled men to do these jobs. I was among the 20 detailed for the drawing office party, mainly Dutch and British prisoners. This lasted for about 6 months, with all design work deliberately sabotaged, and it was amazing what we got away with under the inexperienced eye of the 18-year-old high school student in charge of us.
When I get to it now, what you get? But anyhow, when we got to Japan, they shipped us off in this dockyard. So they said we got to learn. Some got to learn staging, and some got to learn riveting, and some learned welding, and all that to be detailed. I think groups, and that's what we had to learn, and so that we could do it. Made us do it, and so that they could send their men in the services, take them off. So that all the wives in the dockyard. These Koreans, they were slave labour too. They'd been fighting the Koreans for many years, and fighting the Chinamen for many years too, Chinese. So I was a driller, and I had to ream the holes out for the riveters to put and then it was a dangerous job on the scup. It was a dry dock, and if you drop down there, you drop 100 feet, 60 feet down there in the dry dock, you're dead duck. So it was kind of a dangerous job, and I had to rig the scaffolding and stuff like that, and that was a pretty dangerous job. And so sometimes they would give you a little jar of chili pepper, and they called tongarashi, and if being it was a dangerous job, their guys wouldn't do it, and so they would give you this, and you could sprinkle on your rice, not about you picked up banana skins if you did, and you could use the white part of this banana skin or orange peel. That was a luxury. But any other food they wouldn't allow you to eat. It all has to be boiled, like pumpkin leaves and marrow leaves and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's poison, but they allow you to boil it, and then you boil the poison out. You boil in the poison, and then you throw away the water, just eat the pumpkin leaves or marrow leaves, something like that. If not, you just got rice, that rice in a kipper tin there, just a bit of rice, 200 rice, and you got that. You had to work in the dockyard all day, 12 hours on that stuff, yeah. So you was glad to cover anything, Sometimes you go into the garbage cans, and get the fish guts, stomachs of fish and bones and stuff, and then you roast them in a tin on the rivet fire, dry them, then sprinkle them on your rice. They had lots of fish, but they throwed all the inside, and then you give it to the pigs. But a lot of times, if you had the job of feeding the pigs, then you could pack a lot of this here, fish stomachs and bones and stuff like that. You could put it in tins and then roast on the fire and make like bone meal out on it. But after a while, then they decided to detail someone, and they said, well, some of you guys have got to work in the fields, setting sweet potatoes, yams, and we had to work in this year, like maybe 50 in a row, and in a row, just like we did in the jungle. You had rows of hundreds, and then they all stand behind you, and then make sure you keep working. We had to make a big road through the jungle in Java. That's where lots of our guys died in malaria. Altogether, I had 7 times in my malaria, but each time then I diphtheria. But I never did get dysentery. So I used to eat a lot of burnt wood, charcoal, which was very good for dysentery. But when things got tough, in Japan there, in the dockyard there, they decided to put some others down the coal mine. So I never did fancy going down the coal mine. There's my friend who was in the first war, a neighbour there, and he said he had to work down the coal mines in the 16 war, and it's just horrible. So I didn't fancy going down. So I got right on the very tail end of all the guys there, I thought I'd get a job on the top of the mine. When it come to it, I got the bottom of the mine, and then the ones that was on the front row, they got the top of the mine, different shifts like. And this coal mine went under the sea, and it was called the hot box, and you couldn't. The sea was still seeping through the stones up. You had to go down there and drill in sixes and drill drill and blast and fill these big wagon loads of these big coal trucks there and fill them with coal, and then you had to run with them for about 100 yards, and on no shoes on, like in the coal mine, and you had a piece of wood, and then you hook it onto the lines, and then pull it up to the top. Yeah, and you had to get to so much done. So you weren't allowed to come up if you decided to. You had to come up then. Well, then you was, and you hadn't done your shift, and it was just too bad. You didn't get anything to eat, and you get a butt of the roof, butt of the rifle, and then your tailbone there, and make it. Because you had to wait for you. And so we used to have to do what you could. There was some Koreans there, of course. They didn't care. They were like slave labour to a certain extent, the Japanese. And of course, they didn't like Japanese, and then the Japanese wouldn't go down, so they sent them down the coal mine with us to show them what had to be done. But the Japanese wouldn't go down because this coal mine actually was against the law. It had been closed over 50 years, and we had to work down this coal mine, and the shafts and the air blade things had all gone, and you panting and sweating, just there wasn't enough air coming down for you to breathe with. And then you'd be drilling that, and then you could hear the tappings. Some more our guys from another camp working down the coal mine in their part where they was. You could hear them tapping and banging around there, but of course you couldn't send no messages because you're working. It's too dusty and dirty and wet down there. The sea was above you. You was under the sea where this coal mine was to a certain extent. The water was seeping through all the time. When you came up, then you got waiting for you there, and then you marched you back, and you got your bowl of rice, and all you did. Sometimes you said to the doctor, I've been to the toilet for about a month. Said, well, you only have rice, and that only goes to water, and so you never have to go. You just go and have a leak, and that's your rice gone. But if not, like you dropped lucky and you picked up some orange peel or banana skin, was good too. But you couldn't eat the whole lot. You could just take that white part out, and put that on your rice. That's a luxury. I'll shut off here for a minute and give myself a brief. Yeah. Hi there, here we are again. I was just going to tell you, we was getting towards the end of the war. We were getting pretty bony and thin. Eventually, seeing these two great big planes come over, because we weren't too far away, and I could just cross the ferry boat there. And so these two planes come over, and then they dropped this bomb, which we didn't know at times. It was down. Nagasaki was in a low spot. We just thought they'd bombed an oil well or something. Then we seen all this churning up with this smoke, and then thought it was an oil well, but later on we found it. Later on the Japanese come round and said that it was an heat wave bomb, and the Americans had dropped an heat wave bomb there, and so they said they were going to transfer us. So they out of there and moved us to another mining town, but only for a little while, because when it come to the evening, before then they said the Americans and the English had signed their peace terms there with them, and they was war had come to end. There was just a little bit of fighting going on the Manchester border with the Russians and the Japanese. Then the night time come and then we heard that this was an atomic bomb and this wasn't how well they bombed, and then the dockyard started to tremble and crunches around there. But we was lucky we didn't get the heat from it, because it was Nagasaki in a low spot, and like similar to BAM, but it's on a bigger scale, mind you. But it was a low spot, so we got the shake and everything, but we didn't get the heat really from the bomb.
Here is how Alf Carney, in the same camp as Ray, described the atomic bomb going off that day. I saw lots of large bombers overhead and heading eastward. We all cheered like hell, while the guards got very excited and threatened us with all sorts of punishments if we didn't take cover. We still stayed cheering and took no notice. Suddenly, way to the west, a parachute appeared, then a second one. The air was very clear. Someone said, "Some poor bastard has had it." Shortly after, a tremendous flash lit the sky. Then a great column of smoke went up. The explosion was several seconds after the flash, and shook us everywhere we were. The nips went crazy. They set about us with rifle butts and flats of bayonets, as we cheered like mad, thinking it must be some great ammunition dump. We couldn't care less. We sensed in that huge mushroom cloud over Nagasaki that something big was happening. Then we were all driven back to the camp.
We went to Nagasaki when we was free, like all the mountainsides, and the trees were all burnt black, charcoal just standing there. And then there's a big armament factory which they said Churchill and Roosevelt had the shares in. That's why they didn't particularly want to bomb Nagasaki. It was this a big armament factory there, but all was left there. The steel girders, that was just turned like corkscrew, the girders was. And just all that was left of that factory was just a brick chimney. But the rest of the place was all the girders and steel was all twisted like corkscrews. And then the rest of the city was just burning to ashes there, all the mountainside and the villages, all everything was wood, all burnt black like. So I'll stop with that there for a minute and see. Well, here we are again. Soon after then, the planes come over and dropped leaflets saying the Japanese surrendered. So then all the Japanese soldiers, they fled, left us to it. Soon after then, they brought, we wrote on POWs on the campus, were looking to see if they could find us, these camps. They didn't know where we was. And then they came over, and then when they found out, they seen our camps wrote on the top there, and then they started dropping the medical supplies in big drums full of from Okinawa, flying there, and the parachutes were a lot of them. They dropped a bit too low for a start, and then they crashed into the earth, and then made big holes in there, and there was vitamins and tin milk and stuff all mashed together, and everything getting all mixed in there, and everybody was diving in this. It made quite a big hole in the ground, and so and everybody was scrambling there trying to get something to eat. Everything in there with these drums, to put a bit of everything in for us. Officer said, make sure you bring it all in, and everybody was galloping it down. There were tins of tin milk and chocolate and vitamins all mixed together, and we was crawling in the great big hole in the ground where the parachute there, the drums had made a hole in. We were gobbling that down that night. We had a big stew pot there made with all the good stuff, and there was everything in that stew pot, fruit, tin meat and everything, all mixed in together, one great big heavy stew there. We had a good belly full of that, but of course we all had the diarrhea because we're not used to that kind of food, so we all had the diarrhea. So we dropped a lot of supplies, and some crashed on Japanese houses there, and a bunch of Australians were in the camp with us, and they went out and swapping this tin stuff off for meat, like, and all us remember they come back with these bunch of wiener pigs there. It had been a swap from some farmer there, and they brought them back, and then they said, "Oh, we know how to kill these," and we had them in the slaughterhouse there, in this big shed in the mess deck there, where we sleep, and I killed them off, and then we had this pork at night, mixed up with all the vegetables, but everybody had the diarrhea, so we ain't supposed to eat pork, especially for a long time, because it's not good for your system after not eating anything, only rice. I'll see now. Stop. I was just going to tell you when the Americans eventually found us, and then they brought good food and stuff, and then we decided there's some boats come in to Nagasaki, and they decided to get us on this boat, then go across to Nagasaki and put in this boat. We were going to go to Philippines or Okinawa, Philippines and Okinawa there, and went in convalescence there, and they fed us all kinds of good food. Americans did, Red Cross did, and then from there, then eventually we got on a boat and we went to Hawaii, to Pearl Harbor, and we went into the convalescence there, and we took most of a lot of our dead off, died, on the way there, because a lot of them really sick, and we lost quite a few more died. The prisoners died there, and we was in there for a few days there, and then we pulled out. Some went on to Australia, some of the prisoners did, and some went to Canada, and some went to Australia. So eventually we finished up in Victoria, and then I was in a convalescent there for quite a while in there before they allowed us to go home. Went down to Queen Mary to England, and then there was in convalescent there for a while, like in England, and eventually they let us go home to our parents, relations, and whatnot, And then what was fit enough, the others stayed in the hospital there. Eventually we reunited to our families, and my girlfriend was still waiting for me. She hadn't given up on me. And she waited for 5 years for me. And she thought, of course, for 2.5 years I was missing in action and put down as dead. So that, but she didn't never give up. She still waited. She was there waiting for me. So soon after we got decided to get married after, and we got married, and we had quite a big wedding. The bells rang first time in that village, and the aunt rang, during the war. So we had quite a nice wedding. Wife's parents put a nice wedding on for us, and my family, my side of the family too. So.
Able Seaman Raymond Horace Fitchett, 237882, had officially spent 3 years, 6 months and 2 days as a prisoner of war. His last camp was Fukuoka at Nagasaki. The post-war report on the camp noted the prisoners received 1,500 calories a day. The medical facilities were practically non-existent, making it impossible to effectively treat the sick. Working 10 hours a day, the prisoners were exposed to bombing raids and were very inadequately fed for manual labour. On top of this, the report goes on to state that the prisoners were subjected to frequent beatings by the guards and stoning by the civilian population. Back in Britain, at the end of 1945, Raymond married his sweetheart, Sonia Staniford, at Silby in Leicestershire. They would eventually emigrate to Canada, settling in High River, Alberta. Raymond died in 1998. He was 81. So it's a big thank you to Gil Cole, Raymond's grandson, for sending the recordings to me and allowing me to share them. If you enjoy what you've heard, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast software of choice so as not to miss an episode. It's free, so why wouldn't you? I should be listed just about everywhere. If you find somewhere I'm not, let me know and I'll see what I can do. With September 2019 marking the 75th anniversary of Operation Market Garden, I have 2 episodes planned. And one is with a veteran of the 82nd Airborne who parachuted in around Nijmegen. So don't forget to subscribe so as not to miss those episodes. Well, that's all from me. I'm Angus Wallace, and thanks for listening.